Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to welcome again Miss Helen Bond. She is co-founder and executive director of the non-profit organization called Motherland Rhythm Community Benkadi Project. Miss Helen, thank you very much for joining me again under the Human Rights Tree.
Thank you for having me.
I know last time you went through your background and talked a little bit about your organization. And at the end, you was kind of talking about the challenges you were facing as a nonprofit organization. But to go back briefly, would you mind just tell us when did you decide to create this nonprofit organization, and what are the vision, mission, and the goal of your nonprofit?
Okay, so we actually, when we went to Guinea, I went to Guinea, and then later my friend Amy, she was there on a separate trip right after me. So I went in 2001 in December, and then Amy went in January of 2002. And when she came back, we sat and talked about our experiences, and we thought maybe we can do something, something to help, because the music has brought us so much joy, and we felt like we wanted to give back, in gratitude. And so that's when we started the Benkadi project. And after talking with people, the elders in the village, we heard they want a better future for our children. That was the feedback we got. And they said our school's too small. So we started with, what can we do to help with the school? And so we raised money, and by 2005, it was, a little bit of money. By 2005, we were actually able to open a schoolhouse. And so that's how it all began. So whenever we formed a band, whenever the band would play, we would give a portion of what we earned. A portion of that always went to our work in Guinea. And then as we met people and taught people how to play, they also wanted to give back because it brought so much joy to them. And so we became an official 501c3 in 2007. And so we decided to make it, formal and go through that process. And so since 2007, and then our water work that we're doing really started in 2011 when we found out about the technology and the idea. And I'm a professor at Lake Forest College. And I had talked with some college students about this water idea that we had, the BioSam water filters. We didn't create the idea. It exists through a not-for-profit they're out of Calgary, Canada. And I just read their documentation. And so a couple of my students, then there's a competition at the college for, it's called Projects for Peace through the David Davis Foundation. And so they actually won it with our project. So it was the big first step to actually making the filters. So in the end of 2011, one of the students traveled with me to Guinea, and we did a feasibility study, and I felt it could be successful. And then they won the grant. It was in 2012, I believe. And so then he returned with me. Two of my students applied for it. One of the students did the reporting and stayed back here in Illinois, while the one who had traveled with me in December returned with me. And so everything was like just documentation. And we did have, I think I mentioned last time, we had a friend who made a miniature version of the filters. So the student and we made that here in Illinois. And then we figured out, okay, this is how it works. Then we went to Guinea to have the molds made. And that was, a lot of work, because at that time it was all conceptual, it was all on paper. We had a miniature, but to actually do it and then teach everyone how to do it. And because of my love of the music, a lot of my friends were drummers. And so it was started out working with, all my friends, and we kind of showed them with the miniature how you make it. And then later, when we had someone in Guinea who was able to create the full-size mold for the filters, then we started doing the work.
I see. Based on your experience, you fell in love with the Guinean culture, and you learn about the drumming, and you end up using that art to make difference in the communities, in villages. You started by building schools, because education is quite very important in those areas. And further, your organization thought about bringing clean water. I just want to know, what are the criteria uh, to in which you are based to choose villages or to choose a family, as far as water concern?
So like, who do we decide to give the water to, basically, the
Yes.
the
Mm,
filters?
mm,
So there is no criteria. It's
mm,
having a need, basically, right?
mm,
So we know the areas that have great need.
mm,
Um, in the very beginning, we were kind of, we made these filters and we were kind of begging people to take them.
mm,
And it was very difficult. We had to, because nobody understood the idea. And so it took us going back and forth asking people, and we were asking for help too, because it's a lot of physical labor and we couldn't do everything. So we said, if you help, the sand needs to be sifted and the granite needs to be sifted to get the right size and get clean. It also has to be washed. And so we were like, if you do this, we will give you this, and that was really difficult in the beginning. So
mm,
once we started, we did some things like our first filter, we actually gave it to a very popular local cafe, right? So there was this area that everybody in the morning would hang out and drink, their coffee. And so I would go there and hang out, and I was like, this is where we're going to put the first one. And so once we did that, and then people started drinking the water that came out of the filter, they were like, even strangers who came to that area were asking the people who own the cafe, where are you getting your water from? What well? Because it's the most delicious water I ever had. They had stories that they told me where people were coming back. And so what happened is, it really takes word of mouth. And word of mouth is very powerful in Guinea. I find it's really one of the most powerful things everywhere, is when someone speaks on behalf of. And so it started that way. So at this point, we have a fabrication area that we're making the filters, and we have delivered them to everyone in our immediate area. And so basically, one of my project managers, he writes his phone number on the filter. And so when we deliver it somewhere, so for example, if you had it in your house and I went to visit you, and you gave me water, I'd probably ask you, what is that? You would tell me the story. And then when I drink the water, I'm like, oh, it tastes so good. And then you would tell me it's clean. I would be like, how can I get one? And you would say, here's a phone number. And then people call. And so that really is how we're delivering them, is word of mouth, people, visiting someone or family members from another area see it and they call. So if I gave it to you and you contacted us and said, hey, There's a village nearby. They really need it. Is it possible for you to come out? We're willing to do that. One of our greatest challenges is transportation. And we do have a vehicle, but the filters are very heavy, and our vehicle requires unbelievable repair. Like how much money we spend on repairing our vehicle is shocking. And so that is our biggest problem. We're really good at making them. We know how to deliver. And then our biggest challenge is being able to get equipment to deliver. Like right now, my dream is to get a truck, like a real truck. We have pickups, they can hold 4 of them, but we have to replace so many parts in the vehicle.
So one of your biggest challenge right now is to have a way of transporting your product in those villages. I mean, you need a truck.
Yeah, that's a real need.
Can you take us back to that coffee place where you tried your first experience? What was the coffee place name, and was it located in Conakry or in a specific village?
So unfortunately today, that coffee place is no longer there, but it was there for many years. And it was owned by a family, and I don't remember a name being on it, but it was on the corner. So it's in Cemetery is the area where we are living.
It's
and
a neighborhood of Conakry, correct?
Yes, it is. And it's called Cemetery because you can get all your building supplies there. It's not far from the cement factory. And at the time when we started there, we were only one of 3 homes. And now it's like a thick suburb, right? Everybody's moving from downtown Conakry to Cemetery. And so, land was very inexpensive, and now it is very expensive to live there. And we actually eventually moved our fabrication site somewhere else. But we started in that coffee house. I would go there and we would just hang out and talk. We would go in the morning, and then later in the evening at dusk, we would go to that coffee house. So for many years before we were actually doing the filters even. And so I just thought, everyone comes here. This place is important in this community. And I thought, if we want to do something and we want the community to have interest and support it, we want to do it right here where everyone can try it. And once we did that, then word of mouth went out.
I see. There is quite a paradox in Guinea. Despite the country is called the water tower of West Africa, we still, the country is struggling to provide clean water. Just why I think your process is quite an important one, considering the fact you are finding ways to provide clean water. Based on our last conversation, you told me you have been traveling for many years. You have been going back and forth to Guinea for many years. So since the beginning of your trips in Guinea, how many water filters were you able to provide? At least a summary, if you don't have the exact number.
Well, so we do know we're getting close to 5,000. And it's taken a lot of time. In fact, I just talked to one of the project managers in Guinea, and he told me he said we've made 540, and this is in the last couple of months. So we have been able, in the very beginning, our production was small because we started out with 2 filters. Molds, I'm sorry, 2 molds. So we could only make 2 filters, in the work time. Like you can only make 1 filter a day per mold. And so it started up very slow, and we've scaled it up because we have more molds. And so right now we're making more than we've ever made. However, there's a lot of cost involved, you know, on top of it. So, so right now our production is quite high. It's the highest it's ever been. And in addition to making the biosand water filter, which is out of granite and sand, we then also have to make a metal cover to, you know, cover the top of the filter so nothing gets in it, no animals or people, you know, get in it. And they were just calling me, you know, it's always a search for the metal. And then we buy sheets of metal, and then we have to get someone to make that. So that's an additional, you know, item that, you know, we're working on. And I just got the numbers today, but I haven't calculated the cost. Otherwise, I could tell you how much they are. So right now, you know, we have a lot of different little issues that come up. Sometimes it's very difficult to get the metal that we need in Guinea. I mean, my experience, because we do ship items over in a container, and I've gone to these facilities where you have all these people all over the world shipping items from the US to other countries in Africa, to the Middle East. And I always think, like, most people don't know how the world operates, because here in the US, everything's coming over from businesses. And in Guinea, what I see is it's individuals who are trying to have their own business in Guinea that are actually getting these items and then sending them over. So, you know, it's supply and demand, right? Like having things available. One of the things that I can easily pick up is a rubber mallet. I mean, I can't even tell you how long I spent looking for one. I finally found a man who made them out of tires. But that's, I mean, nobody here would even think of what it would take to get a rubber mallet. Like it's like getting a pen or a pencil here.
So basically, another challenge you are even facing is, despite you have the desire of making these water filters, sometimes you run out of materials and you have to go through here trying to find them. Can you take us to the process of finding them and shipping them to Guinea and bringing them to those in need? What it take to go through that process?
So the only thing that we really, so as far as when metal's out, we don't send metal over. It's too much, right? So, but the one thing we do ship over are the diffuser baskets. They're little black baskets that go inside of the biosand water filters. So when you pour water in, it basically rains over the top. And in the beginning, we made them in Guinea, but they became so expensive because of the price of the metal. We were paying like $60 for one per filter. And I found there is an organization that's doing the same work we're doing out of Haiti. And I found out that they had someone who was actually making them out of plastic. And the cost was small, like $1.50 per item. But I have to ship it to, you know, my location, take it off of pallets. So when you ask the process, this is a great item to explain the process. So I order it from a company, and they will only ship it in pallets. So there's like 700 pieces. It comes in a pallet. So the pallet comes to my garage, and then I cut it, and then I buy lamp boxes. So I go to like moving U-Haul, or I can order from other companies. They're less expensive, but at U-Haul, they're stronger. So then what we have to do is separate these items and put them in the boxes. So now maybe I just recently did 2 pallets, so 1,400 items, and it took like 40 boxes. So, and these boxes are very heavy. One person, you can kind of hug it and pick it up. But I have a friend who actually is a weightlifter, like he's very athletic.
Mm.
And so I have a couple friends. I mean, if I didn't have friends, I couldn't do anything, right? So
Yeah.
they come over and a group of us would tape up the boxes. They would pick them up, put them in the box, we tape them closed, and then they stack them. And then I rent a U-Haul and they load it up for me. I drive by myself over to where I go for shipping. And then somebody meets me. I have a friend from Guinea who would meet me.
Where do you go for shipping? Mhm.
Well, I used to go to it was the Detroit area, but now it's Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, okay.
So it's further. But so I have someone who helped me, or in the past, I've had a friend ride with me and then help me. That person, he and I would unload them. We have to write our names on them, put all the information together, pay for the person who handles it, getting it into the container. And then it's received in Guinea. It takes about 2 months. And then Fode, who you met, our project director, receives the items at the shipping port, and that's a whole nother process. So he's informed it's coming. Everyone who has items, they all have to, have their money because there's taxes on it. And so once the container's open, everyone's paid, it's open. He then has to if it's a lot of items, he has to hire a truck to take them to our facility, our little place, and unload them. And then we are using those for the filters. And so, for example, they tell me 540 filters were just made. And that also tells me, okay, I'm going to have to do another shipment probably in the spring next year or summer, to send out more diffuser baskets, because that's the one thing that we have to have that goes over there. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I think it's not only a lot of work, but there is money also involved.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
for the people who make the filters in Guinea, are they paid or they are doing it voluntary?
No, so we have a crew right now. We have 7 regular people. They all receive payment. So they are receiving a salary every 2 weeks. They receive a salary. And then some of them, we're also supporting their children in school. So some of them, they began. So we have different levels of workers. So I have some people who've been with me from the very beginning. And then we have new people who start, and we test to see, is this person going to work well for us? Because it's a lot of together time in
Yes.
this work. You have to have a group of people who can communicate, who can get along and have the same goals. And so we have like a contract they sign, kind of like our code of honor, if you will, how we do work. Like nobody will ever, never take money for a filter, because if people are happy, they want to. You can take food, right? Like many places we go, people want to give us a meal, but you never take money. And so that is a contract that everyone signs. We have a process. If there are disagreements, there's no fighting. We have, and we've all, many people I've known for a long time. I think I mentioned it earlier. Some of them I knew when they were teenagers, some 5 years old, and now they're all older, and they're all, more experienced in life. And so some of the things that we had to deal with in the beginning, we don't deal with anymore. And they had to learn, because nobody before this had a job that they went to 5 days a week at a certain time every day,
Yeah.
and then had to work until a certain time. This was all new. And, for me here, I know that from a very young age, right? Like, going to work and the rules. So we're dealing with the group that we have. None of them really had that, in their background. And so it was about patience, learning. I'm from a different culture, so I have a different work idea. And so I sometimes, in my background, I was in information technology, a project manager. I had a lot of deadlines. I had, crazy deadlines. I had to get things done. And there were unbelievable schedules that I held. And so I didn't have a lot of personal time. And I had to, change how I do things. And they also had to learn about, like, this is how we do things. If you want to do this work, you need to understand this process. And so it's, it was learning for all of us.
Yeah, I believe that there was a lot of learning involved because to develop such work ethic is not often easy. Can you take us just in that process by being more specific what you have to do to bring all that team to have certain way of working that is sufficient for your project to go along?
Oh, there's so many pieces of it. So I'll explain one issue that we ran into that I didn't understand until we ran into it. So when we first did our first fabrication and deployment of the filters, I had a college student with me, and I think he was 21, maybe 22. And then I had different people who were working, they were mostly, I think at that time, mostly drummers. And there were some people who were neighbors who became involved. And so what I did is I said, okay, we're going to break up into two groups. And he went with one group to deliver just so that we could, reach more people. We broke up into two groups. So after they were made, he would deliver with like 3 guys, and then I would deliver with 3 guys. And at that time we had no vehicle. We were doing it with wheelbarrows. And it was scary, right? Like, I always worried, I don't want anyone to get hurt doing this work. And so the vehicle helped us greatly when we got it. So anyway, there were like little conflicts. And so I had to sit down, and I realized what it was is that he was working with a young group, and they were like, you're younger than me, so you're my little brother. That's what they would keep saying. And they didn't want to take instructions from him.
Oh, okay.
And so there was this, and then the group I was with, they've known me for a long time and they're with me. So I think if everyone had been with me, they would have listened. But because he was newer and young, they were like, didn't like to take orders from him, or didn't want him, they would like, I know. So I realized this. So I said, okay, we're going to change groups. And so I took the really young people.
Oh,
And then he took they were older, but they understood that we understood this process and we're teaching you. And so when we all sat down and talked about it, I was trying to, like, what is the problem? Why are we having a challenge here? And I realized it's because he's so young. I gave him to the older people, and they worked really great together. And I had no problems with the younger people because they've known me for so long. But I have noticed, not so much now, but in the earlier, even the young people, someone who was 21 would say to me, well, he was 22, and he would say, well, you're 21. And I'm like, if I was 21, I was 5 when I first came to Guinea. Like, no, I'm not. And then I realized he wanted to think of me as being younger than him.
I see.
So, so that's a different cultural thing. And then on top of it, the younger people we had pictures that showed how things worked. And I had with my team, the younger group, one of the guys in the group, depending on what language people spoke, was who explained it. So we had someone, Baga, we were like, okay, you're going to explain the filter to them. But they were the elders of the family, and he wouldn't say anything. And I was like, tell them. And he's like, yeah, but he had a hard time. And I'm like, listen, I understand the culture and I understand respect, but you know more than they know, and they want to learn. And so, oh my gosh, that was a really big challenge, because young people aren't used to telling older people what to do and how to do it, right?
The age difference often play a big part in our cultures, and the elders are respected based on their age. I know
Yeah.
that your project require a lot of time and money. So where do you find the time and money to be
Well,
able to achieve your goals in Guinea?
so, well, the time is always a challenge. It's like up and down, busy times. So it just melds into what I do. So right now we haven't been able to do it since the pandemic. So 4 years. So this weekend we're having our first fundraiser activity that we've had since the beginning. So 4 years. And so I know I have a lot to do, and I also work for myself. I teach at the college, but I work for myself. And anyone who works for themselves, you learn that work is never over, right? Like the great thing, I had a corporate job. I had a lot of work, that we accomplished. But at the end of the day, I could go home and then shut it off. And when you work for yourself, you never turn it off. So it's never turned off. I'm thinking and worrying all the time. The money, well, as I've traveled and taught people how to play, I've met a lot of people, and people are really, I find the majority of people are very kind, generous, and they want to make a difference. They just don't always know how or where. And so I've met people, and I ran into someone who knew about a grant opportunity, and I fill out paperwork to get a grant. And so lately, that's where the bigger money that we get comes from, the grant, but I'm still depending on donations. And, we get $100 donations, $10, $30, $40, all across the board. And it's harder today, as probably all not-for-profit organizations would tell you. It is harder today to get donations. I think everyone's struggling, right? Everything is more expensive. And so you feel that impact as a NGO.
Yeah, often when you are in the non-profit organization world, you have to really love what you do to be able to overcome the challenges. And as you mentioned, you're applying for grants, and in some time you rely on people donation. And for the first time after the pandemic, you are having an event. Can you tell us a little bit about your event?
So, well, I also feel like it's about sharing this beautiful music and then our love of drumming. So what's happening, it's about a 3-hour event. We're going to have, I say, West African inspired peanut sauce, for the meal. It's not going to be as hot as it is in Guinea, but we have a vegan and a chicken option. So I do all the cooking for that. Everybody brings food as well. And I think the last time in 19, we had a couple hundred people who came. But my college students perform, all the groups that I teach, some are combined. They all do performances. So we have over 55 people in performances. We have 7 different drum groups playing. And then I have my professional group, Dia Manadia. And then my Friday group, which is my longtime students, One Tanada, they're going to play. So so all these groups are going to play, and then the college, sometimes the students get involved. So there's an Afro dance club. They're coming to perform at this event. And we're going to end it with a drum circle, but it's a different kind of drum circle because it's going to actually have music in the background, and then we'll show people things to play. So it's just a beautiful night of everyone getting together. There's no cost to come to the event. It's free will donation. If people want to give, great. We also have a silent auction, and people bring things that they want to contribute for the auction. So I never know what I'm going to have at the, like, people are now starting to contact me and show me pictures of items. So it really is. I have some friends from the Congo, and they were the ones who really pushed me to do the benefit, because they're like, when are you doing it? It's been so long since you've done it, because they love coming to it. So I can thank them for getting us to do it this year.
So it's going to be like the holiday in the village.
Yeah, it is. And and everybody's nervous. Like all my performing groups are all nervous, and it's fun. It's really fun. And it's all different ages. I have college students, and then I have my, I would say over 50 groups, so that's the beauty of the music, is that it transcends gender, transcends age, economic status. It's all inclusive. Music doesn't know color. It's really beautiful when everyone gets together and has fun, and then of course eating is good too.
Thank you very much, Miss Helen, for again joining me under the Human Rights Tree. We only have 1 minute, 30 seconds. Can you tell us about the date and the time for your fundraising?
Sure. It's this Saturday, November 4th. It's at the Byron Colby Barn in Grays Lake, Illinois, and it starts at 6 o'clock. It's the kind of thing that you can come and go as you like. So you don't have to stay for all of it. You don't have to be there right on time. But it's always better to get there earlier for the food because the line gets big.
There will be Guinean food. There will be also the drumming, and a lot of people from different background getting together. Miss Helen, thank you very much for your great work, and we look forward to seeing you on Saturday.
Okay,
Again, thank you for joining me under the Human Rights Tree.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.